This time, the Geordie and the Gragoks slow things down in Perth, swapping long roads for family celebrations and a few memorable meals, including enough chilli crab at the Epicurean to qualify as a personal achievement. And on the very first day in Perth, the journey gives way to what really matters: family. Here, the Geordie and the Gragok are reunited with Diane, Kiara, Janice's goddaughter, Joan, Brian and Corey visiting all the way from Singapore. The perfect welcome at the end of a very long road. And even on the road, work continues, with the Gragok running what her boss has officially described as a space capsule powered by laptops, extra screens, and just enough satellite internet to keep everything calmly under control. This was Hillside Garden Village in Mount Richon, the original base of operations. It was perfectly functional, just not the sort of place anyone was rushing to write postcards about. And with plans extending to include Mother's Day, birthdays and a longer stay, the Geordie and the Gragok quickly realised that a little more space, and perhaps a little more charm, might be needed. So in a move driven less by adventure and more by practicality, they packed up and relocated. In an effort to document the journey to the Warragul Fruit Company properly, filming is attempted, and very quickly, rejected by the Gragok sister. No. And at the Persimmon farm, the Geordie finally encounters something entirely new. Persimmons. The Gragok, of course, is completely at home here, surrounded by what can only be described as a Mount Everest of fruit. There are hard persimmons, soft persimmons, and a series of very clear, handwritten warnings strongly suggesting that under no circumstances should the soft ones be touched, which somehow makes them feel considerably more threatening than necessary. There's also a polite but firm handwritten note limiting purchases to 2 trays per family, once again written in a way that suggests this is not up for negotiation. Behind the scenes, an impressively efficient conveyor quietly washes and prepares the fruit, giving the whole operation a reassuring sense of order. As for the Geordie, a sample slice is bravely attempted, and very quickly confirms that this will also be the last. Elsewhere, the farm offers apples, butternut squash, and at least one example of produce that appears to have taken on a rather unexpected and unmistakably human shape. All in all, a successful visit, if not perhaps a repeat experience. The Gragok and Erin last saw each other back in May 2011. Just before life sent them in completely different directions. And now, more than a decade later, they somehow pick up exactly where they left off, as if nothing much has changed. Apart from time passing, locations changing, and the Geordie now being responsible for dinner. Erin committed to travelling to the Geordie and the Gragoks campsite and demonstrating once more her undeniable resilience as she spends the night in a tent, in a refreshing 7 degrees. There's catching up, plenty of laughter, and just enough food to suggest the Geordie may have slightly overcommitted to his role as camp chef. And, as the campfire takes over and the stories keep flowing, it's clear that some friendships don't fade with time. They simply wait, and then carry on as if it's still 2011. And so, attention turns from exploring Perth and stories of crossing the Nullarbor to something far more serious. An engagement party. This is Diane and Boris, celebrating the moment where two people decide quite publicly that this is now everyone else's business as well. What follows is a table, not just any table, but a long, long table stretching into the distance like some sort of organised family summit, filled with family and the quiet anticipation of food. And then, of course, come the photos. Photos of family, more family, extended family, people you recognise instantly, and others who nod politely as if they've known you for years. The Geordie and the Gragok blending in as best they can, take it all in, the stories, the laughter, the catching up, and the gradual realisation that events like this are less about the occasion and more about everyone being in the same place at the same time with something worth celebrating. Which, all things considered, is exactly what the evening was all about. Although who knew the Santa Maria family could laugh so much? And just when life in Perth was settling into a comfortable rhythm, the plan changed quite dramatically. A rapid return flight to Melbourne was required because the Gragok had somewhere far more important to be, the Chief Executive Women Gala. The journey began in typical fashion with the route to the airport briefly blocked by two protesting kangaroos who, while making their point very clearly, ultimately had no impact on the schedule whatsoever. From there, it was a late-night flight, a very short stay, and a complete change of pace. Because while the Geordie and the Gragok had been crossing the Nullarbor in practical comfort, this was something else entirely. The Crown Palladium, an extraordinary evening, inspiring, motivating, insightful, and just a little bit glamorous, with performances that moved the room, speakers that held everyone's attention, and a celebration of accomplished women who are, quite frankly, operating at a level far beyond anything seen at a roadside roadhouse, and the Gragok, elegant, confident, and entirely in her element, marking not just the night itself, but a decade at Telstra, achieved without ever needing to pause for reflection. And then, just 36 hours later, it was back on a plane and back to Perth, because this particular road trip, it turns out, occasionally includes planes as well as automobiles. While in Perth, the Gragok took full advantage of something that had been missing for quite some time: food from Singapore. This meant a steady procession of dishes with names the Geordie could neither pronounce nor confidently attempt to repeat in public. From lobak to rojak to char kway teow to lor mee to chicken feet and, of course, bee hoon. Every meal out quickly became a culinary expedition. Restaurants across Perth, including places like Fugu 8 in Willetton, were visited, sampled and very carefully assessed, while the Geordie nodded along, doing his best to appear knowledgeable and quietly accepting that some of this was going to be a learning experience, and throughout it all the result was remarkably consistent. The Gragok smiling from ear to ear, the Geordie trying a few things that looked okay, and then immediately identifying a short list of things not to revisit. It was clear that this wasn't just food. This was familiarity, memory, and occasionally something involving textures the Geordie is still trying to process. So when their 7th wedding anniversary arrived, the Geordie understood something important. This was not the moment for experimentation. This was the moment to get it exactly right, and no excuses would be accepted by the Gragok. Luckily, after much research, he found a place that served the Gragok's absolute favourite, Singaporean Chilli Crab. And so, at the Epicurean at Crown Casino, surrounded by more food choice than seemed entirely necessary, the Gragok set about what can only be described as a very focused and determined operation. What followed was a performance, a display of skill, and commitment even. By the end of it, the Gragok had set a new personal record for how much chili crab she could consume without any immediate structural failure, which, for an anniversary celebration, feels not only appropriate, but deeply impressive. And just when it was thought the Gragok had reached peak chili crab, it turned out that was merely a warm-up. Because for Mother's Day, the entire family returned to the Epicurean, Brian, Joan, Diane, Boris, and of course the Gragok, who had already identified the menu highlight. What followed was less a meal, and more a continuation of an already well-established tradition. Proof, if it were needed, that some things in life are simply too good to only experience once.
Happy birthday present, Mother's Day present, and probably the presents for the next 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
But
God.
it was worth the drive to somewhere called Joondalup.
You went to Joondalup?
Did.
Holy cow, baby.
Sorry, I don't know what the band was. Joondalup I went to.
Joondalup.
Anyway, weird place. Strange.
Okay.
I just hope it's the one you actually wanted.
I'm happy with... Holy cow!
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's the right answer.
Unusually, a speechless Gragok accepted her 3.4 carat diamond ring. This was not just any ring, but the one the Geordie had always wished he'd been able to present all those years ago on one knee, back when it might have been called an engagement ring. But given his old knees these days, he took the easier route this time.
There we go.
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Did you get anything nice for your birthday?
Oh, I got some very nice things on my birthday.
The Geordie and the Gragok found themselves at the Palm Beach Cafe in Rockingham for their breakfast. Now the food was excellent, the views were impressive, but for the Geordie, none of that really mattered, because just outside was a slide. And despite all evidence suggesting otherwise, there was clearly no age restriction, only a quiet understanding that some people really should know better. Naturally, this did not prevent repeated testing. Rockingham, with its calm coastline, wide-open beaches and unmistakably relaxed pace, proves that Western Australia can do effortlessly beautiful without even trying. But as good as this is, there's more to see, so it's time to head north toward Fremantle. The visit to Fremantle begins at Bathers Beach, one of those rare places where history and coastline sit side by side, with calm water, soft sand, and a view that quietly reminds you just how good Western Australia can look on a clear day. It's relaxed, it's picturesque, and for the Gragok, it's also an opportunity to make a new friend, in the form of a seated bather statue on a bench, who, it has to be said, was considerably more cooperative in front of the camera than most people encountered on this journey. Lunch was at Kylie's Fish Market in Fremantle, where the Geordie encountered a clam chowder and a sourdough cob. Now, this is a man who has eaten chowder at Pier 35 in San Francisco, and he still confidently declared this one better.
You like that then?
I do like that very much.
Which, in chowder terms, is not a statement made lightly. And as the day drew on, it became clear that this wasn't just another outing, it was a continuation of a week of important celebrations with one last traditional celebration to be carried out. And so, as the light faded on the Gragoks' birthday, the candles are lit, and the family moment arrives.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, Blue.
Happy birthday to Janice. Happy birthday to you.
Look up.
How old are you?
56.
You going to blow your candles then? Make a wish.
Yeah, make a wish.
Yay!
Byford, where the streets are quietly populated by an assortment of statues that range from charming to ever so slightly confusing. It's one of those places where you're never quite sure if you're looking at public art or something that just appeared overnight. The Geordie and Gragoks Perth visit was full of other wonders, as well as the Byford statues, which a few look like they've been standing there so long they're quietly judging everyone who walks past. On one of the trips to see the Gragoks family, they peered out of the BLC's windscreen to see what only could be described as the end of the world approaching them. It was a planned burn in the Perth Hills. It was only days after that a rather serious notice is issued for the Perth Hills and surrounding areas. Warning of smoke, reduced visibility, and the general suggestion that motorists should behave sensibly. In other words, someone has very deliberately set fire to a large bit of bushland, and then issued a warning to say, there is smoke, between Alan's butchers who beats his own meat, to long-necked turtle warning signs at the side of the road. The BLC's extra spot lamps came in useful on more than one occasion. There were fields full of kangaroos, casually ignoring everything as they tend to do, a car wash called Squirters, which raises questions and answers none of them, and a house, or possibly a car, in a colour match so precise it's impossible to tell which came first. And those were just some of the small moments, slightly unusual, but that added to making the trip memorable. And lastly,
What does this remind you of, Janice?
It reminds me of York, the shamble of York. But I didn't know that.
When
I
you used
saw
to-
this first.
Oh, so York reminded you of this?
Yes.
Oh dear, that's a bit
I mean,
that's a
this
bit
called-
Doctor Whovian.
This holds London Port. So I just assumed London looked like this.
Oh, I guess it did years ago.
Yes, I have lots of pictures. I'll take a picture.
and with that, the Perth chapter comes to a close, ending, as it perhaps should, with kangaroos, questionable signage, and a house that may or may not be colour matched to its car. But the journey isn't quite over yet, because next, the Geordie and the Gragok turn around and head back to Warragul, a journey of just over 3,500 kilometres spread across 7 days of driving, and, one suspects, a fresh supply of tea in Yeti mugs. Thanks very much for watching, and if you'd like to see how the return trip unfolds, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, thanks for coming along for the ride.